really thrive off starting this early dragon sort of stacking.
They really do. A lot of the time, I think CFO especially, even when they perhaps shouldn't fight the drag, they fight it anyway, for better or worse. His first strike picked up here on Pretender Jace. Comet Scion coming through, so definitely wants something, a bit stronger for that lane matchup. We've seen this before in the past on Scion, but I don't think I've seen Comet Scion in a while. I definitely did used to get taken in these range matchups though, so I'll be interested to see how it does.
Yeah, and it is going to be Aftershock Maokai, so it will probably be either the Moonstone or just straight tank Maokai this game. Definitely wouldn't really expect to see AP build. But that does leave you lacking in ability damage, so have to see if that sort of plays any effects. Not so many mega tanks on the side of CFO, especially when you compare it to the Frank team, but start will be spotted out here as Gemini takes those Raptors and Hollow starting red.
Okay, Hollow, yeah, he's starting on that bot side and is immediately going to cross to top. So maybe he wants to do some sort of early gank onto rest and kind of swing that matchup in their favor. That is going to mean that Frank's bot lane has to be a little careful, obviously, with how far they push up, especially with an Elise pathing towards their side. There's also, I think, double Cull picked up. I believe Pretender and Eminem have one. I think Shun has one as well. So there's a lot of money being made in this game.
Yeah. Shun definitely has one, as we see him get that extra gold, as well as Eminem. Pause will come in, though. The Pause Championship Series does continue.
Ironic, isn't it? Does continue. But hey, okay. level 1 so far, nothing really happened. But, I mean, the jungle path is a little interesting.
Yeah.
Pathing up top on the Maokai so early, I mean, it does suggest you're going for some sort of early gang onto that Gnar, right? And I do think that Scion versus Gnar is obviously Gnar favored, but it's a matchup where if you put the Gnar behind, it can kind of struggle to really get back to a point where your lead is actually relevant. You might be getting priority over the Scion, but you can't really ever hit towers, you can't really ever deny anything. So if they can get a kill up there, I think, Hollow would feel real good about putting that matchup kind of in his team's favor.
Yeah, and I think something to consider, I mean, Hollow could potentially even look mid. It isn't a mobile mage in the Veigar. If you do get that flash early, then it becomes a lot more weak and you get more pressure mid. But also, with the priority that Pretender most likely will continue to get in this mid lane with Jace, could look for a dive on top even, with Scion being able to tank it up, or even Maokai, who if he tanks before using that W will be able to drop aggro. Something to consider, I think, but we will get back into game now. Blue now taken by Hollow as he heads towards Wolves, so see if he does go for a level 3. Actually, I don't think that path gets you level 3 just yet. I think you need to do one more camp.
It's a real interesting path. I mean, maybe just wanted to secure the buff and then is going to go back into bot side. I'm actually not too sure what his plan is. Yeah, it looks like that was the play. Okay, so just wanted to secure those buffs away from Elise, made sure that I guess nothing kind of came of the early priority. Is now going to move back onto that bot side and perhaps can be around bot to make sure that there's no Elise gank coming through. Obviously, not the most efficient thing in the world, but it's quite safe and does secure most of their lanes, kind of just getting through these initial stages. So CFO's bot lane, they are starting to build up this wave. Gemini's on the other side of the map, and I don't know if Frank have confirmation of this. They had that ward at level 1 on the Raptors, but since then, I don't believe any wards have gone down, and without the priority in the lanes, can be quite difficult. I'm surprised that Jace is losing priority mid, though. Hook comes out.
Cohen will take a little bit of damage there, but I want to say both junglers' pathings are really interesting. Even Gemini started Raptors and then went to his bot side, back up to red, and now Scuttle Crab. And definitely not your traditional sort of pathing in any case, but Solo Kill here has got him such a massive health lead in the top lane. We'll have to be careful as Gemini comes in. Looks like Solo Kill most likely will go down, but have to see if he can pull off any magic tricks. Oh, no. Fails flash. Rest will pick up first blood now, and that's definitely not the start you want in this game. Loses flash for no real reason, as well as losing first blood.
It's tough. I think that wall was pretty difficult to flash, I will admit. But unfortunately, Soloco, he doesn't make it. And I think, honestly, they just weren't expecting Gemini to be there. They were probably expecting him to be on the bot side, especially with that Raptor start. But was just an interesting path that comes out. And Solo Kill, he was busy farming that forward percentage, but unfortunately just becomes a KP stat for Gemini.
Yeah, it certainly did. And You do really want that to be the case for Rest, honestly. The last 2 times these players faced, he was on Gnar, and solo kill really got the better of him, so a little bit different here this game as Hollow will now be caged up, but nice use of Twisted Advance, is able to get out of there as Gemini comes to back up Jimmy really low on mana here, so maybe needing a bit of help to be able to push this in.
And I was talking before about how the top matchup could very easily go the other way, right? If it does manage to get snowballed towards the Scion, but here it's, Rest, who's already 1-0, and at 1k gold lead for the side of CFO. We're going to have to see what he can actually get done, because I think it's pretty hard to ever stop solo kill from becoming that teamfight menace. But in the 1v1, most likely we'll be able to get stuff done, although the Comet is making it look pretty close.
Yeah, definitely. And Dragon has spawned just 20 seconds ago. And so we'll have to see if either of these teams start heading towards there. You do tend to see both of these teams liking that objective early, and with the priority that is being held currently for CFO bottom, maybe they'll be able to look at that as Jimmy now teleports into mid, but Gemini now looking top, at least one of the best tower divers in the game, but Scion probably the best at not getting tower dove.
Oh, no.
Gnar is used. Cocoon will land here. Solo kill does not have flash available, remember. He will be going down, but who will pick up the kill? Repel actually used as Gemini, Rest actually gets the kill there. Luckily, being Scion, though, he will be able to farm up the majority of this wave.
Oh,
actually,
wow.
Cocoon stops it, so nice find there. CFO now getting a huge lead in this top lane and could have possible implications as this game progresses.
Yeah, definitely not what you'd expect kind of out of solo kill early, but unfortunately does die to both those ganks. And, if he had just, on the previous gank, even if he died, if he managed to save the flash, would have been able to get out there, but unfortunately does go down again. Rest picks it up once more. Frank, though, they're stopping the CFO drag win condition early on, so kind of different start for both teams here. Currently, though, gold lead is towards the side of CFO, and as we were saying before, these teams boast incredible win rates when they're ahead in gold at 15 minutes. I think CFO have only lost maybe 1 game ahead at 15, and for Frank, maybe 2, so very, very uncommon for them to fall with that kind of lead. Looks like CFO, they're going to maybe try and regain some of this bot lane vision. Ooh.
Will only just miss because of that blast cone, but Kaiwing able to get away there happily, and Eminem actually loses a bit of minions here. He's staying fairly even, but a little bit of a lead here for Shun as Eminem now returns to his lane. And I feel like soon you probably want to start activating Kaiwing elsewhere. It doesn't seem like this lane is particularly killable.
Yeah, it is pretty difficult, I think, to get out of this lane. At least for now, you're kind of pinned here, and you don't want to give too many plays to Zeri either. Although we might see supports leave sort of soon to play towards the Herald. This Pretender, he is the one getting that prio, Jimmy, and he's forced to match this wave here. And what can Pretender get done? I mean, he's going to try and sweep some of this vision. Looks like he's not going to find any of it. And is Herald now spawning in 10 seconds? Both supports still playing in bot, so that might suggest that we could just see a dive on bot lane from the side of CFO instead of Herald, which I'd actually kind of like more.
Gemini does look to be pathing top, as that's where his camps are, as we do head into another pause. Getting some of our pauses out early, hopefully.
We certainly hope so, but like I said, Gemini is pathing back towards that top side, and it would feel weird, I think, to give up the Herald when you've got a 2-0 now. Kind of feels like that top side should be pretty strong for you. And you can kind of just let bot 2v2 on their own, especially if they can keep Kaiwing in that lane and just make this a 3v3. But we'll have to see how it actually ends up going for them, because they still have that Veigar who, despite remaining, even in CS, isn't going to be as strong in these early skirmishes as the likes of the Jace, especially because Pretender has picked up a fair amount of magic resist. I think he's moving towards the Mercs or maybe the Hex Drinker.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised to see either of those items. Obviously, Merc's really good against both Veigar and Elise. But then again, so is Hex Drinker, so I feel like, honestly, Pretender might have a big impact in these fights coming up, but he is low mana, as we saw just before heading into these player cams, so you have to feel like Herald probably goes the way of CFO here, but importantly, Frank did pick up that first dragon, and as we said sort of in the pre-game, CFO haven't looked at the cleanest at being able to finish games without the dragon win con. I mean, even against the Chiefs we saw last week when they're up like almost 10, maybe 12k gold or something ridiculous, they were starting to lose some of those team fights. And so, I mean, that is definitely a consolation prize for Frank. Obviously, the gold lead's not good, but I think you're okay as Frank here, as the deficit is generally just the Scion, which you don't so much care about.
Yeah, I think it's a deficit that you more feel in that side lane as opposed to too much in the team fights. Although we have seen some pretty impressive Naras when they do get ahead. Solo kill being one of them, actually.
Like 1v5,
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Had a great performance on that. Much earlier in the split.
Yeah, where do you think the Maokai build's going? At the moment, he does just have that Ruby Crystal. Obviously, with Aftershock. It can go into any item, really. But we will go back into game here as we take a look again at bot lane. And we do see an engagement here by Kaiwing. Shun now dashing forwards, does have ult, as does Nautilus. Hook lands, ult will be used onto Kaiwing, gets really low, but flashes away. Cleanse and ult now used out of Eminem, as Shun gets very low, but both of Frank bot laners do as well.
Lots of Sums traded here in the bot lane, but no one ends up going down, although Shun looks like he is the one that can stay in this lane, as Gemini looks like he's going to start up the Herald, so just wins across the board for the side of CFO. Resty's getting chunked out a little. Hollow is pathing here though and has the Merc Tread, so should be very strong in this skirmish. Taking a look at what happened bot, it looks like there was actually an engage that came out of Kaiwing early, but then, I guess he lost his... Yeah, he just lost his cooldowns and kind of got re-engaged on. Was unfortunately forced to flash away. And even the cleanse coming out of Eminem now, as we see.
Oh, Nature's Grasp will land here onto Rest. He's really low, and Shutdown goes over to solo kill, so getting a lot of that gold back as Herald now getting low, will be smited away by Hollow. So massive pickup for Frank, as you say, wins all across the board, but it did get turned around.
I wonder what happened there. I really want to see the setup, because somehow Rest just ended up kind of getting CC'd and taken out for free, and that Shutdown gold almost equalizes the gold difference. Let's see, it looks like Gemini and Rest are here early.
Gnar goes down early, Mega Gnar.
Yeah, so they don't have Mega, and also I think Gnar is better off preventing Scion from even coming to this. Gnar obviously much better in the 1v1, not as good in the early team fights though, as he's just stunned up and taken out. So I want to say questionable macro there from CFO. I think they should have been able to pick that up or at least delay it. But instead, going the way of Frank. Now, it's not the easiest Herald to drop somewhere, right? Like, plates haven't really gone down in any of the lanes. But I'm sure they'll find a way.
Yeah, it would be just nice for the gold anyway, I suppose. But while I said that, you know, Scion, you don't really mind so much if he's behind. You'd really do like, in this game especially, for him to be ahead. Because as I said earlier, there's not really any good way, as we do see Zeri just shimmy on out of that lane. But back to what I was saying, you don't really have very good way of taking out the Scion. I mean, you have Zeri, but if he ever gets shut down in a fight, the Scion's going to be able to just live forever.
Definitely will. As we see the Giant Spell and the Amtome come through on the Maokai, most likely will be going towards that Demonic. And I think that makes sense because he has kind of ended up as the solo AP of his team here. And Maokai, I think, functions fairly well as a solo AP. You can deal quite a lot of guaranteed damage just with the Saplings and the Nature's Grasp as well. Cull now finished for everyone in this game. Lots of gold coming through once again.
Yeah, as we see, it looks like the Eclipse Jace this game. I think that's a better idea as well. Not too many reasons you have to feel to go Gore Drinker. I don't think you particularly want to be in a melee range with a Veigar who can just put a cage around you.
It doesn't feel like the best decision. As we see, battling for this river control are both teams, with Dragon only 7 seconds away. As you said before, Dragon, I think, especially important for CFO, just as a general win condition for their team. Frank, though, it would be their second Dragon. Would be nice to pick it up. Especially now, Mythics coming through. The Kraken picked up by Eminem, Shield Bow on Shun Zeri. I think Frank should want to hard contest this, and CFO, I want to say you have to give it up. Your Veigar still doesn't have Rod of Ages. All you really have is a bunch of defensive stats, so I think this should most likely go the way of Frank, but as we've said many times before, at CFO, they like to contest things that perhaps they shouldn't, and oftentimes make it work.
Yeah, with Rift Herald going down mid, we'll pretend to stay around. He does look like he will try and get some of those plates, and River Control does go over to Frank. Using both sweepers at the same time isn't the best, but they do establish control, and those saplings will help in maintaining it. Catching a little bit of damage there onto both Gemini and Slaytrue, but nothing too bad.
I like CFO's position.
Kaiwing gets engaged on here. Solar Flare will land now. Will they be able to take out Jimmy on the top? He's getting extremely low. As we see down the bottom, Gemini will manage to help Shun take out Kaiwing, but top side, it is Chade over. Jimmy will pick up the kill. Shun now chasing. Does have that extra movement speed from Zeri. Gets extremely low, but shield bow popped. Hollow and Pretender now coming down. Can they stop it? 1 kill over to Pretender. Twisted Advance will land, and the knockback. Can Pretender finish this one off? He does. So 2 kills there to Pretender for 1 for Shun.
Really interesting fight here, I think. Honestly, I want to say CFO had the better position, but the problem is they're just so weak at this point. Still didn't really have any damage on Gemini, no Mythic on the Veigar. And once again, it's so weird that they so heavily contest these dragons. I mean, we kind of come to expect it now because it's CFO. But I think just, it's not really correct, right? It just feels so hard to fight. We'll take a look at this. So initially, it looks pretty good for CFO. You've broken the fight into 2. It's really difficult for Pretender to get into this fight, especially if Jimmy just zones him out. So it's all looking good, but look how long it takes people to actually die here. Jimmy also, I think, majorly misplayed. The cage being used on the Leona was a big waste, I think, and just allowed the Maokai and Jace to walk into this fight. So I honestly think, despite being behind, probably could have gone the way of CFO given their early position, but Frank, they play it a bit better. And they are the ones that come out ahead. I don't think Dragon actually ended up going down, but Shun, he certainly did.
Definitely did, and we'll have to see as we go back, because I believe Hollow was starting it up, but yeah, a lot of gold now over to Pretender, and he finishes his Eclipse. He's got Merc Treads, and he's really set to be such a threat in the middle stages of this game, and Dragon is still live, so hasn't been picked up yet, but with the power of this Jace now, you have to feel like it does favor the side of Frank to be able to pick it up, as damage actually was Eminem taking the top spot in that.
It's pretty strong with that Kraken. It is now the Rod of Ages picked up for Jimmian, and the Dragon is alive, so could go back at it. Slater, he takes a lot of damage there. Importantly, I think it was, Shun that gets those 2 kills on the Zeri. Can certainly carry the game. While it's perhaps not the best gold trade overall, still I think it's good. But a second drag being picked up here for the side of Frank Esports, and while I don't think I really worry about CFO's comp, I do worry about them a little bit as a team, kind of going into this mid to late game without that consistent sort of safety net that comes from having those dragons.
Yeah, and as we sort of touched on earlier, the team ahead at 14 tends to be the team to take it out, especially between these two, and I mean, I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that team fight happened just before 14 and gave Frank the edge, as we do see Nature's Grasp will land here onto Jimmian, but with no minion wave, there isn't any real follow-up, and he'll be happily able to just sort of walk away.
Mid priority is being grabbed here for Frank. Gemini looks like he is going to be able to pick up this Herald this time, but where can it be used? You'd have to expect top or bot. Mid looks pretty healthy at this point. Jimmian.
Yeah, Jimmian jumped on now. Twisted Advance will be used as a follow-up from Pretender lands. He's extremely low, but no tower shot to come in, and he just picks up his 3rd kill.
The Jimmian just not safe enough there on the weak side. Unfortunately, does go down. And it is difficult, right? You don't really want your Veigar to stop farming, but at the same time, being on the weak side up against the Jace Maokai, and it's so hard to survive. Reset, though, came in from Frank Esports' bot lane, and that will give CFO the chance to actually take this mid tower down. Once again, gold going over to Shun. That's actually the first tower that's picked up before Pretender could get this bot tower. So it's a nice gold swing. It's still in the favor of Frank, but I think at least the gold is going on Shun, someone that you have to say uses it pretty well.
Yeah, and gold lead, I mean, CS lead actually for solo kill up in the top lane, which I don't feel like should be expected, but I guess that shutdown probably helped them quite a lot, as well as Sunfire. Really nice, strong early game item on those tanks. Demonic finished up 2 now from Hollow, so a lot of extra pressure, especially around those dragons. It becomes all that much harder to walk through those saplings as you try and set up for.
It really is, yeah, because who do you even face check the saplings with? You can face check him with the Zeri and just heal it back, but no one else really has the sustain to deal with it.
You can use Naught Shield, but again, that's only useful for 1.
Yeah, it is just going to be difficult, and you have to feel that CFO probably will be forced to contest that next dragon in 3 minutes, unless they want to play this from a 3 drag deficit, something that I don't think any team wants to, let alone CFO. Two stacks on the Rod of Ages for Jimmy, and he's working towards what is going to be the Seraph's second item. I think it's a mistake. Rabadon's second item, I feel like, especially when you're forced to contest in only 2.5 more minutes, you don't really have time to go the really greedy scaling build. I would just prefer the Rabadon's picked up, but we'll have to look at Shun's items in particular. Should feel like he can hit 2 items before their dragon spawns.
Yeah, and with how sort of short range the side of Frank is, the Runans, which will inevitably come in, will have that much extra impact in these fights. But again, Dragon's going down. If Frank pick this up and they're only 1 away from Ocean, Ocean is so scary to deal with when you're against so many tanks.
Engage.
We do see an engage here. Gemini getting extremely low. Repel will get him away for now. As cleanse used for Shun. 1 kill picked up by CFO, but a return now found from Frank. As we see Eminem going into the middle. Kaiwing finds the Zenith Blade onto Shun, who has to flash away. Can Eminem find the damage? He does. That is a triple kill for Eminem, and he is so far ahead in this game now.
Eminem played that so well. Just managed to find the last auto onto literally everyone when it felt like he couldn't put out any more damage than he did. But always managed to find that little bit extra, and that did make the difference. Also, credit to Kaiwing as well. I think fantastic re-engage from him. But that's, I think, a big win there for Eminem. I mean, he's going to find himself catapulted ahead in this game. And Kai'Sa, you know, one of the best champs at snowballing. Let's see how this played out. So Gemini is pretty hard contesting the mid wave, and I guess just to, didn't manage to repel in time, and the follow-up from Hollow gets him down to half before anything happens. And I think it could have just been a 1-for-1, but questionable by Slaytrue to chase so far. I mean, he was trying to find the Naught auto and couldn't even do so. Was forced to both flash and stopwatch still go down.
That auto by Eminem.
And the flash for the very last one. It really nicely played there. And I think, honestly, kind of questionably played, especially from Slaytrue and Gemini. Not sure what the re-engage was about, and also failing to repel the Leona ult. Obviously, it's a high-stakes game, and you have to feel for them, but you know, obviously, it is pretty important that you win these skirmishes, as Third Dragon 30 seconds away, and CFO, I don't think they're ready to contest, but they might have no other choice.
You feel like they do certainly have to. Sion, solo kill, now picking up that bottom wave. And when you enter the sort of river against Sion, it becomes even more dangerous because he can just charge into the middle of a team fight and you have to dodge it, otherwise you lose a lot of your health. And look at how annoying these saplings are just set up in these bushes too. All river priority now for the side of Frank, as Jace is now finding poke onto the members of CFO.
Yeah, it only is the lifesteal on the Zeri, but no huge pokers hit yet.
Rest is in Mega now, so without finding a fight, which they will not, well, Rest won't be a part of it, but we do see a start as Sion lands a massive initiation onto Slaytrue. We also see Jimmy getting so low. Pretender, can he find the Q? Just not quite, as Rest will get solar flared and taken out as well.
That is the third drag there, picked up for the side of Frank Esports, as well as a massive teamfight win, which you have to feel should be a Baron as well. And it looks like a game that remained relatively competitive is now so heavily towards the side of Frank Esports. I don't think there's any way for the side of CFO to contest this Baron. Shun's pinned to his tower, Jimmy and no TP. And that's going to be, you know, the third dragon picked up, the massive gold swing, and now the Baron pressure. The world is really your oyster here as Frank Esports.
Yeah, kind of weirdly played by CFO. I imagine we'll go into a replay, but they had Rest almost out of Meganar on the bottom side as they start the fight on the top side of River. So we'll take a look at the replay now.
Yeah, Resty gets chunked out on the side and is forced to jump over the wall. Meanwhile, there was that engage, but everything used onto Kaiwing, who did not even end up going down. I believe even Vega's ult was used onto him, so there's just no damage left available. And like we kind of said before, despite the fact that they maybe could have played this better, it's so hard for CFO to contest when your Vega is so weak. I mean, look at him. He doesn't have the Seraphs or the Rabadons. Only 367 AP, which for any other mage is pretty good. But you can see here, right? 840 damage isn't really putting out the numbers he needs to. And now, it's going to be a lot taken away from Frank as they're sieging the mid and top. I believe mid tier 1 still remains, but top tier 1 has already fallen. Top 2 also. Not long for this world now. It's 3 items on Pretender's Jace. Just melts these towers and probably going to melt their health bars too.
You have to think so, and they don't really have any good wave clear to stop Frank as well. I mean, Vega has a little bit, but as you sort of pointed out, not much AP, so won't be able to do too well against these waves as Nature's Grass comes in trying to ensure they get this inhibitor turret. Solar Flare will go wide, so an important spell. Kaiwing kind of just flashing forward, getting nothing to happen, but we will see that tower now go down as they will likely have to back away from this inhibitor, but Solo Kill now recalling to deal with Rest, who has managed to pick up quite a bit of gold for himself in that bottom side.
Yeah, credit to Rest is doing what he can, but it really just feels like a trade that you're forced into, and it's the best you can get, but ultimately is still more picked up by Frank Esports, as Tier 2 tower and maybe even the mid inhib could be next. Top inhib has already fallen, Rest is recalling, so maybe they want to try and defend mid. Feels so difficult though. There's a lot of poke that can come out, although this might be it for Frank Esports. Now that Rest isn't pressuring, looks like they're going to back off. Know that they can just play for the 4th dragon in 2 more minutes.
Yeah, what do you do here as CFO? What would you sort of say is their only way in? Because I'm struggling.
I think they have to find some sort of, maybe flash Nord engage onto either Kai'Sa or Jace. It is difficult though, right? They both have the flashes and a fair amount of safety. But I think there's no chance you win a front to back. Maybe Rest can find some sort of big engage, but you're really praying for a miracle, I think, now as CFO. I mean, you're so far behind, especially in terms of effective items right now, right? It's 3 items picked up for both the mid and AD of Frank Esports. Shun doesn't have his 3rd yet. Jimin nowhere close to the Rabadons. The carries just don't have the damage to kind of match up into this.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of like my problem. Even if you do find a pick on Eminem or Pretender in like a team fight, who here is actually realistically going to be able to kill Solo Kill, Hollow, and Pretender? Because there's not really the damage. I mean, Shun will soon have that last Whisper item completed into the Lord Dominic's, but even then, you don't have the IE or the Navori to really amp up those damage stats.
QE does go a little wide. Yeah, you're right. Without the Navori, does feel like you're going to be weaker, and without the Lulu as well, right? We kind of brought that up in Champs League. It's another zoning ult. It comes out from Hollow, and this just buys you the ability to hit that tower if you need to, although doing it without the minion wave there I think is a little questionable. Bought them time to kind of do nothing with.
Solar Flare lands onto Jimmy, and they do find a bit of poke on him, but nothing else to follow up. But with that poke, are they able to get anything more? Doesn't look like. Slaytrue flash hooks forward onto Kaiwing, followed by the depth charge onto Eminem. Kaiwing goes golden as we see Solo Kill coming in the side. Nice guarding by Rest to stop anything from happening here as Sion getting extremely low. Will they be able to take Fail's flash for the 2nd time this game? Will be shut down, and importantly, it is Shun who picks up that gold. Now 15 seconds until their dragon. They could possibly look to stop the stacking here and buy themselves just 5 more minutes.
They're going to have to try, I think. They do have TP that everyone's around. I mean, Gemini, he's lost so much health. I think you have to force this as CFO, but you're so chunked out. There's so much poke. I think Frank should be able to win this, but CFO, I think you don't have a choice.
Yeah, Gemini so low, not even in the pit here, as Pretender just slowly but surely heading away. As we look to the bottom side of our screen, Nexus Tower is now getting hit. If Solar Kill respawns, he'll be able to teleport back there. We do see a fight start off. We see one taken out by Frank. Can they find anything more? Dragon is stolen away by Gemini, but what is it going to cost? So far, everyone is dying. Shun is alive yet. Will likely get away. He's the last remaining member as Solar Kill now teleporting into the base. Will be followed also by Pretender, and the game is done. Dragon costs your Nexus.
It's always an interesting trade, right? But I think you did really have no choice there as CFO. The game was pretty done if you give that over, and they unfortunately tried their best in that team fight, but Pretender was just a bit too strong as Hollow, he almost gets taken out. But game 1 does go the way of Frank Esports in only 26 minutes, and I want to say, kind of bringing it back to the draft, while I like CFO's draft on paper, taking so many fights with a Veigar early doesn't really make sense. I think that honestly they shouldn't really play the Veigar. I think they need stronger mid priority, because if you're going to take these fights no matter what, you might as well be as strong as possible for them.
It was a counter pick too, which is interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. I mean, they got such a lead on Rest and it really didn't turn into much. I mean, he ended up getting shut down in a kind of a botched Rift Hero to play up on the top side there, and from there, I mean, mid-game, I have to commend Eminem and Kaiwing. I mean, that sort of 3v3 that happened in the middle lane, as well as Hollow, obviously. But that kind of, to me, was what led to such an advantage. They'd already gotten the first Dragon, I think, before that. And then that fight was found. Eminem then has so much sort of gold, and it just leads into more dragons, which eventuated in the game one.
For sure, yeah. And I want to say, while, you know, obviously draft and stuff can be better, in terms of gameplay, I actually think that was kind of worrying signs for the side of CFO, because that's probably the worst game we've seen Solo Kill play since his very first match. And honestly, while it wasn't horrendous,